冲的地震，汤方，冲的地震，汤方。哦，你在这里，我的车在这边。
Well there. Hello everyone, and nice to have you with me for the next few minutes. As you're probably aware, I'm not exactly the kind of person that will upload on a regular basis like other people do on YouTube. Mainly because this channel for me is really, well, it's just really having some fun and doing videos every now and again. So it's not, I don't take it really too seriously. And it's only, of course, if I do have something rather interesting that I'd like to talk about. Well, it's been a rather interesting week, shall we say, here in Taiwan. On Wednesday, unless you've been living under a rock, we did have a rather big earthquake. And I don't know if I've talked about this in previous videos, but Taiwan is a bit in an earthquake zone. So earthquakes are something that are quite common here. This was the largest in 25 years. The last one was in 1999, which happened near the city of Taichung, where there was a considerable amount of damage. And we were kind of overdue for a long one, which many seismologists in Taiwan have been saying. So when we get, let's say, earthquakes of 5 and 6 or 4.5 on the Richter scale, which we get them quite frequently, actually that's a good thing because it does release a lot of pressure. So this earthquake, which was 7.4, but some places are saying 7.2 and 7.3. Even one place I saw they said 7.6. But if I go by Taiwan's official seismology office, it's 7.4. It was something that was actually going to be expected. And 9 times out of 10, the chances were going to be that the city of Hualien was going to suffer the brunt of the earthquake. Now, first of all, Taiwan is situated on what is known as the Ring of Fire. Hualien is the closest to where those tectonic plates actually meet, so they're going to get the brunt of the earthquake. So when it happened, I was actually at home. I had just woken up, and I was making a coffee. Sitting down at the computer, I was responding to some emails and going through Facebook messages and everything. And if you've never experienced this kind of thing before, it is rather interesting. I look at everything as being interesting, so I'm not gonna start panic and doing sensational stuff. At first, probably 5 to 6 seconds, it sounded like a truck. Now, when very large trucks pass in front of my building, there is that kind of vibration noise. And I thought, oh, it's a truck. But then 2 seconds after I started hearing that, on my phone and many other people as well, we got a notification from the Taiwan government on our phones that a major earthquake is going to hit. Major earthquakes here are usually, you'll get a notification if it's 6.0 and above. So you just kind of, you have like a few seconds to prepare. So that vibration grumbling noise, then the noise stopped, then turned into more vibration, and then a considerable amount of shaking, and then all kinds of noise within my apartment with things moving about and all that. It was definitely probably the most severe earthquake that I have ever experienced here. But we need to put this into context. As I said, Taiwan is sitting in a very active earthquake zone. And I knew that right away, as soon as it happened, Hualien was probably the epicenter. Now, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how people in Taiwan would react, let's say, compared to people in the United States. Now, some people in the United States would say, well, the earthquakes don't happen here, that's why people panic. Well, if you live in California, which do have a fair amount of earthquakes, I mean, they're also expecting a large one at some point. The reaction, of course, is very different. So here's side by side how one of the Taiwan television news presenters reacted compared to 2 reactions from the US.
来看到这新北市有传出枪响，不过在这之前，现在您感受到明显的剧烈摇晃，主要是呢现在在北部地区，尤其在台北，现在呢发生了有地震的情况，地牛发生。那么现场你们可以看到呢，其实现在我本人在现场几乎站都站不稳了。那尤其我们的天花板哦，几乎是剧烈的摇晃，很多东西都掉下来。也提醒在电视机前的观众朋友呢，务必要小心安全。那尤其现在地震正在发生中，那么现在的地震强度呢，主要是发生在刚刚的7:50。
Thank you. Coming up, more problems for a troubled
Earthquake.
center. Yep,
We're having an earthquake. Okay, it appears to have stopped.
Yeah.
We're gonna jump right now to to the U.S. Geological Survey.
We are experiencing quite a bit of shaking. If you'll give us a brief moment here, we're making sure that nothing is going to come down in the studio here.
And it is going for quite a bit, everybody. It continues
this is a very strong
to rattle
earthquake.
pretty strong here.
8:21 here on the air. We're experiencing very strong shaking.
Wow.
I think we need to get under the desk.
All right, we're going to go to break. We'll be right back after
We'll be right
this.
back.
Wow.
As you can see, rather different. Luckily, I didn't have very much damage at home. Just a few things had fallen on the floor. The people that suffered the most damage, for example, if you have a bookshelf, and it's a kind of bookshelf that is attached to the wall, chances are those books all fell on the ground. But the bookshelves that I have are freestanding. So they're attached to the wall, so none of the books or good bottles of gin that I have on these shelves fell to the ground. A friend of mine, Natasha, she was lying, of course, in bed, and practically every book that she had just rummaged all completely around the floor. And by the way, as I'm speaking to you, you're going to be seeing some video and some photographs as well that I'm putting up. Now, one of the first things I did was, well, check what the strength was. We get that immediately on our phones. And within 5 seconds of that happening, every single one of Taiwan's 24-hour news channels was covering it, as well as the international channels. Now, this is where I think if you're living overseas, you probably had a different view of what this earthquake was like and was like to experience, because it was there's a lot of sensationalism in it. So the view, I think, that a lot of people, let's say, had in other parts of the world was it being a lot more worse than it actually was. It was bad, but it wasn't as bad as what you're seeing across social media. And as I've said before, the thing about social media is you can have something, let's say, which is a 7.4 earthquake, but they're describing it as like a 10 on the Richter scale. But the way it's been reported on social media and on many foreign TV news channels is that it's doomsday and the end of the world is coming and all this rubbish. That just isn't the case. When this earthquake happened, and like I said, it is a long holiday here in Taiwan, and usually all the mountain roads are going to be very busy and everything else. We've had a considerable amount of rain. So when there's an earthquake and the soil is wet, of course, things get shaken around quite a bit, and there are a lot of aftershocks. I think so far the largest aftershock was a 6.5. So because of the aftershocks, because of the major earthquake, because the soil is wet, some of the mountain roads are unsafe. Now, the government is not saying that you cannot take them. They suggest you don't. But if you do, just take some precautions. Anyway, there's actually some of the video that has been popping up on different sites here in Taiwan and on Taiwan television from people recording off their dash cams of their cars and motorcycles and buses of what it was like on the roads and what it was like in the mountain roads. Now, this kind of thing is going to continue for a little bit. And a while ago, I can't remember exactly when, I think it was in the summer. Yes, it was in the summer. So I think it was either June or July. In one of the videos, I'll put it up right now, the clip of it. There was actually a small earthquake, I mean small, of like 5.2 on the Richter scale. And the road that goes from Xindian in Taipei to Yilan, at one section, it's always the same area, was they had some traffic control because of an earthquake, a very small earthquake that happened. That area always happens every single time. There's been earthquakes that are like 3.5, and there's this one area of the number 9 where either the road gets covered up or boulders come down. But it's not as bad, not as bad as all, as what's being shown on social media and on stations overseas. Like this, with any other natural disaster or even human disaster, use some critical thinking and don't turn a molehill into a mountain. Yeah, it's sort of like, here's an anthill, and all of a sudden, after a few hours, that little tiny anthill is being discussed like it's Mount Everest on social media. Anyway, that's it. That's all we have time for this very short video. Well, short video. That's all relative. Because I'm actually going to be heading to Hualien. And I just have a few more things to pack. And expect to go a longer way. Hopefully it doesn't rain, because I don't want to bring my raincoat, my rain gear, if I don't have to. It's only water anyway. Anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you very, very, very soon.